back to another blog, another podcast out of the Gospel According to John. Welcome to those who access the podcast through the Be Young Ministry YouTube channel. And of course, welcome to you for accessing the beyoungministry.blogspot.com website. Today we continue in John 18, verses 19 through 24, which reads, "Meanwhile, the high priest questioned Jesus about his disciples and his teaching. 'I've spoken openly to the world,' Jesus replied. 'I always taught in synagogues or at the temple, where all the Jews come together. I said nothing in secret. Why question me? Ask those who heard me. Surely they know what I said.' When Jesus said this, one of the officials nearby slapped him in the face. 'Is this the way you answer the high priest?' he demanded. 'If I said something wrong,' Jesus replied, 'testify as to what is wrong. But if I spoke the truth, why did you strike me?' Then Annas sent him bound to Caiaphas, the high priest." Again, this is John chapter 18, verses 19 through 24. We return to our study of the Gospel of John. We have considered the arrest of the Lord Jesus in John chapter 18, verses 12 through 14, and Peter's first denial in John 18, 15 through 18. Today we consider John 18, 19 through 24, where the Lord Jesus is being questioned by Annas, the previous high priest. Annas was the father-in-law of the then high priest Caiaphas. Due to his corruption, Annas had been removed as high priest by the Romans. Yet he was the power behind the throne, and the soldiers brought the Lord Jesus to him for questioning first. In verse 19, Annas begins his first phase of questioning on a totally illegal basis. Jewish law never required anyone to testify against himself. Yet that was what Annas did to the Lord Jesus. And as mentioned before, it was at night and it was secret. When asked illegal questions, the Lord Jesus replied openly and honestly, only to be met by contempt and with a contemptuous slap to the face. In verses 20 and 21, the Lord Jesus responds with, "The law does not allow you to question me. Ask those who heard me. They can tell you, being witnesses. That is what the law requires." In response to his statement, the obscure official slaps the Lord Jesus. To the slap, the Lord Jesus responds with, "If I have done wrong, then tell me what it is. If not, why do you hit me? This is against the law." He simply repeats the position he had taken earlier and stands his ground. This is what it looks like to turn the other cheek. Stand on your rights without becoming angry or striking back. In his questioning, Annas focuses on Christ's disciples and his teachings because he was hoping his answers could be used against him in the following court trials, and thus led to his execution. He is not concerned with justice. He is only concerned with using the justice system in order to eliminate the Lord Jesus, who was in fact a threat to his position, power, and wealth. In verse 22, the Greek word used for slapped, raphisma, which describes a blow to the cheek with an open hand. The unaware official said to Christ, "Is this the way you answered the high priest?" The official believed that Christ's indictment of the high priest was improper and out of line. The official provides for us a very important lesson. This lesson is underscored in Galatians 6:8, which reads, "Whoever sows to their flesh from the flesh will reap destruction." Some translations say corruption. On a day-by-day basis, we have the continuing choice to be smart and feed the Spirit, who has awakened our spirit to the Lord, or we can feed the flesh which is faithful to deliver destruction into our existence. The only way his indictment of the high priest was wrong was if Christ himself had been wrong. But we know he wasn't. This is why the Lord Jesus said to the officer in verse 23, "If I said something wrong, testify as to what is wrong. But if I spoke the truth, why do you strike me?" The Lord Jesus knew, even as Annas knew, that he was, in fact, right. Annas had totally disregarded the proper legal procedure. The Lord Jesus, after explaining to the officer the rightness of his indictment of Annas, at the end of verse 23 responds to the officer for striking him with, "Why did you strike me?" As Annas realized, he could get nowhere with the Lord Jesus. According to verse 24, he sent him to Caiaphas, the high priest. He did not have to send him far, just across the courtyard where by this time the Sanhedrin had gathered. But John ignores that whole trial before the high priest. We get that in the other Gospels. In the course of this hearing, the Lord Jesus has displayed his perfection, his sinlessness, against the backdrop of the sinfulness of man. Though he was the one on trial, it was those around him who were exposed to be the ones who were guilty. This is the way it is when we stand in the presence of the Lord Jesus. The more we walk with him, the more our sin becomes exposed. This is why pride shouldn't have safe haven in our world. Finally, I've wondered, since the Lord Jesus knew he was going to the cross, why does he defend himself before Annas? Why doesn't he just handle it the way he does later with the leader of Rome in the area, Pilate? The Lord Jesus defended himself here in order to defend the proper process, or to expose the inaccurate or illegal nature of this trial. Everyone who has ever received a proper trial are ingratiated to the Lord Jesus for justice. My friends, if I could be of further assistance to you in your walk with the Lord, shoot me an email at beyoungministry@gmail.com. Hey, have a great day.